really appreciate you coming back. You were a fan favorite. We appreciated your information that you had on our last webinar. You guys can go back to our website and play that back. But this one's going to be a little different. We got a lot of questions after that. And I wanted to kind of do this as a Q&A. I'm going to ask you the question, but I know the answer. Is that okay with you, Ira?
Of course, that's wonderful.
Awesome. So for those that don't know Ira, don't know us, you kind of came in through different pathways. My name is Lori. I am the marketing director here at Auctria. Ira is our guest today, CEO and founder of Cornershop Creative, an amazing SEO shop. I will ask you guys, go ahead and put in the chat pod, where you're tuning in from geographically, what kind of group you are fundraising for. We'd love to know where you're joining us from. And then I only have a couple slides here just with some basic information about us, because I have a lot of questions for you. But the opportunity is here for the attendees to ask questions. So your questions will certainly bump mine. So let us know as we go along if we can answer anything. So it looks like we have, okay, so Carla, Ontario, Jacksonville, North Carolina, Onslow Literacy, Special K Ranch, Columbus, Sam Jews United, DC, Maryland, awesome. Patrick, my favorite, from Portland, Oregon. Meg, Friends of the Earth, Kansas City, Missouri. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Bozeman. Okay, we are Montessori. Angelique, hi Angelique, nice to see you. I have a couple little screens here. While people are putting that in, I just want to remind you, Auctria has been around since 2011, 50,000 auctions and event fundraisers, $500 million have raised. And that's actually an old number. I pulled that in June. I should probably refresh it. There's probably been a couple more since then.
Yeah, it's been a busy fundraising year.
Absolutely. And this is just a sampling of some of the organizations that have used the Auctria platform. Ira, talk to us about Cornershop.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Ira Horowitz. I'm one of the founders of Cornershop Creative. We've been around also since early 2010, so about 2012 we started, and we've been supporting nonprofits and small businesses in various digital services. So we design and build websites for nonprofits. We support and provide maintenance on those sites as well, especially in WordPress. And then we also provide digital marketing services such as SEO marketing that we'll talk a lot about today, Google Ads services, email marketing support, and just general ongoing maintenance. So some of our clients, it's excited to see you here, like Meg from Friends of the Earth and Sam from Jews United for Justice.
Awesome. So just for some housekeeping, I only have like 2 or 3 slides here. I'm not going to go through them. You'll get those afterwards so that you have the contact information. Within the Click Meeting here, which is our webinar platform, there's a little arrow that kind of points to itself. That's the chat pod. You can pull that out and leave it floating if you want, because we're probably going to do more of a discussion than we are presentation. So if you want to pull out that chat pod, make it a little bigger, but you know, don't look at all my crazy hair here. We're going to have more of a conversation, and I invite you to, put any questions in here. We have the opportunity here to have an amazing SEO advice, and so let's start at the top there, Ira. I'm going to start with 2 of them together. What is SEO, and why do nonprofits need SEO?
Those are good questions to start with. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. Essentially, it is the practice of optimizing your website and your web content for search engines so that your content is now ranking higher. Why nonprofits need it is a great question. I do get this a lot of like, well, people aren't necessarily searching for my issues and things like that, but people are in a nutshell is that we do find that investing in SEO just has the chance to increase your site traffic, get more people on your website that will ultimately lead them to more engagement. So whether that's signing up for your email list, taking action in an advocacy campaign, or ultimately what I think many of us here want to do is directly get more fundraising. So a lot of people out there are actually searching for things around your issues or around maybe your events. If you have programs that you run, they may not necessarily know your organization or remember who did those programs, who did those fundraising events, but they may want to come, and they're searching for those things. And if your site is not optimized for SEO, they might find your competitors instead of your site. And you obviously don't want that, because there are a lot of organizations out there. A lot of them are doing great work, and you want to get them involved. But the ultimate goal is to get more people engaged with your organization. So the message and the practice of SEO is really trying to match what people are searching for and present your content above other people's.
So Google's probably the biggest, right? Google and then Bing.
Yep, yeah, correct. Google is the main one, but certainly Bing follows a very similar format and formula.
And I know this is a gigantic question, but what
Okay.
does Google really look for when it's related to SEO? Is there a way to really peel back open up the shade and see what they're looking for?
Yeah, we get this question all the time, and really nobody knows the full algorithm for sure. I'm sure people at Google don't even know everything that goes into it, because it's such a complex format and formula for how things are ranked. However, Google it has given us a lot of clues over the years as to what they want content to be. And really what Google says is they want people creating good content that people want. They want people focusing on things that is authoritative, that provides expertise and trustworthiness. It's the acronym there of EAT: expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And that's really what Google's looking for. Is they want to send people who are searching in their search console to the most authoritative and the best content that's out there. And that's really what Google's advice is to be honest, to be trustworthy, build a strong reputation, and deliver good content. So how you do that, there's obviously a lot of things that a lot of factors that go into this. First and foremost is relevancy. It's never a good idea to be saying, hey, we're going to get all these people by just talking about something that has nothing to do with your topic. That's a number one way that Google's going to be like, something's not right there, and why are you talking about this topic? So that is one thing. Creating a strong network of links. A term is called backlinking, where you're getting other sites that are authoritative, that we know Google likes and trusts, and getting them to link back to you. Having articles in like the New York Times or other notable publications can be really effective, because that gets you more brand exposure, and Google knows that New York Times is reputable and is gonna provide good content. So if they're linking to you, that means something, and that's really important. A few years ago, Google really started changing their algorithm. Initially, for the first 15, 20 years of Google, it was all about the content itself and everything that you put together. But over the last few years, they've really had a focus into the full experience, because you can create good content, but if you have a poor site, Google doesn't want to send people there. So they've started prioritizing sites that perform high in like mobile responsiveness, for example. A few years ago, they started putting a flag on sites that were not mobile responsive, and that would start reducing where you displayed in the rankings, if your site was not mobile responsive. Same thing with site performance. Google has really prioritized over the last year or two various performance metrics, because nobody wants to click on a link from Google and have it just spinning there forever. It gets frustrating, and people immediately go back to the Google search results and get frustrated that, hey, that didn't work. So they've started prioritizing sites that are going to be more performant and actually serving the content quickly, so that users can get to the content they want very quickly and effectively. So those tend to be the main things there that we tend to focus on. There are hundreds and hundreds of factors. There are some great articles actually on the internet that even go through and literally, here's like the top 200 factors that Google considers. And so we'd be here all day if we talked through them all. But in my understanding and what we tend to focus, it's on making sure your content is optimized for those keywords that people are searching for. Focusing on backlinks, getting your partners and networks and other communities linking to you, and then focusing on the technical aspects to make sure your site is running fast and performant for mobile users.
Awesome. And I think Kathy is literally looking over my shoulder because my question was very similar. Kathy asks, how can we optimize SEO for our Auctria auction event sites? And I'm going to tag onto that. Because these events tend to be short term for a limited amount of time, what's your best practice for that?
Yeah, that's another great question, and something I'm excited to get into because we said this is about SEO for fundraising. So let's get into the fun stuff. So obviously, Auctria and other platforms that manage the event registration, they are meant for that short term, for that interaction piece where people are really engaging. And sometimes it's hard to just say, like, here's that auction site, it's only up for a couple of weeks or months or something, and it's going to be difficult to really generate a lot of SEO buzz around that if it is that temporary short term. Things like what's in your URL and page titles and things like that are very important. So what we typically recommend is always having a permanent space on your website that is your initial home for your event. So if you do run an auction, making sure you have a dedicated page that talks about what that auction is, what it's going to support, why you're doing the auction, who it's going to benefit, what items you have, and really talk through and have all that information there on your main website, because that'll give you that benefit of your domain, which already has built up a reputation around that issue and around what you're fundraising for. It will give that event more credence. You'll be able to really expand on it. And if people are searching for terms around it, I mentioned in the last webinar, our friends, the Chesapeake Climate Action Network, they ran a great Tesla raffle where they were giving away a Tesla. And so, having something where, the mechanism for registering for the raffle and stuff, separating that from your content and how you're advertising and promoting that event on your main website, I think is the first key step. So I always encourage people to start there with having that permanent space on your site. But you can also even do additional ones like blog about your event, post about why people should attend or participate, post about the events. My kids' school would do a silent auction kind of thing every year, and they would get dozens of donated items. And so to be able to talk about all those items, you wouldn't want that in one massive blog post talking about 100 items. You want to break that up and do a series, so you're introducing that and promoting that to your supporters, and that'll boost your SEO because each time you blog about it, you're creating more really strong content that's gonna it's gonna tell Google that you're the authoritative on this matter and this issue, and so it will just continue to rise up. Another quick option I'll mention as well is that if you do it with your site, this starts getting a little technical, but if you have a good web development team, there's some good metadata schemes. So basically code you can add that will show up if anybody has searched for events near me. If you're looking to go to a concert this weekend or something, if you search for events near me, Google will show you a little calendar of events that are happening in your area. And there's a specific schema that you can add into your website that will get you to display in that event listing. And so that would just open you to a broad new audience of people who are searching for they want to do something. Like, I want to go out and do something fun this weekend, but I'm not sure what it is. And so a lot of times these types of events could be what people are looking for.
I love that. I love that you were talking about, having that permanent page. And with Auctria's website editor, it's so open and so flexible. You can carry those images over, you can carry those colors over, you can carry those buttons over, so that when they flip from that page to their event side, it's continuous. I've seen some people do such an amazing job that I didn't even realize that it was an Auctria site when I was on it sometimes, because it just mirrors that so nicely. That's such a great idea, because then it's up there forever, or as long as you want, and you're pushing info to it. As long as I've been doing this, I'm like grabbing information from you, Ira. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Hey, what happens if organic traffic decreases? Is there a way to pump the brakes on that?
Yeah, that's something we see a lot, is that we get folks either, sometimes it's right after redesign, sometimes it's, it could be 6 weeks, 6 months later, or if you've had a site for a while. We do find that SEO is something you really have to pay attention to on an ongoing basis. It's not like a one-time, let's set your site up for success.
Right.
It's good forever. So one thing that we do, there's a great resource that Google offers called Google Pagespeed Insights. It's at pagespeed.web.dev is the URL. And you basically go to that site, you can enter it, you can put in your URL for your website, and it will tell you how Google thinks you're doing for the technical metrics that they look at for SEO specifically, and performance. So a lot of sites these days are not passing, especially on the mobile side, because they do want it to be lean and clean. I mean, if you look at Google's homepage, there's a search bar and that's it. That's, I think, what Google wants all sites to be. But but I think it's a great tool, and it gives you a nice benchmark to see how performant your site is and what you're doing. It is there's really no, it gives you like a score and a number. There's really no score to shoot for. You want to be as high as possible, but there's really no metric. What we typically advise folks is to be higher than your competitors. So it requires doing a little research, running it a few times, and if you know who also is kind of going to be coming up for those search terms, seeing what their scores are and aim to get higher than them and fixing as many things as possible.
That's awesome.
But another thing I'll quickly mention is 404 errors is often a problem of if you're seeing your metrics decrease, or if you're seeing fewer traffic. That is one of the factors that we know Google does not like, is that if you have a bunch of broken links on your site, again, I think it goes to that trustworthiness of how well is this maintained, and how effective is this site. And so that's another factor that I think is a pretty easy one to solve, is if you have broken links on your site, to either remove those links or change them to something else.
Awesome. Amanda asked for that link. We'll pull it up and we'll drop it in there. There's a lot of technical terms that you're throwing out at people, and you're giving a lot of information that, if they run the page speed, if they're this, if they're that, you guys will help people evaluate that, right? I mean, if they're like, okay, now I got this number, what the heck do I do with it now? I know you are a very comprehensive service, and that would be something that you guys would be able to help organizations out with, correct?
Absolutely. If folks need help, even in the short term of just getting things up to a better baseline or fixing some things, we can help with, as well as ongoing engagements of, even if you need help with that content, additional writing things, getting things in better shape on the content perspective. We have various services that can address any of those needs. A lot of the things that it does, they do tend to be pretty technical in what they kind of output. So it is really diving in, working with the developer to optimize that. But not only do fixing these things provide a benefit in the SEO world of, Google's going to see your site better, it provides it in the real world too. Of, again, as I mentioned, people want to go to sites that are more performant and running fast. They don't want to be waiting for things to load. And so not only a lot of this stuff, people are like, well, I don't want to just placate Google or Bing. But it's not what this is about. It's really about making sure your supporters have the best possible experience on your website.
Awesome. Kathy asks, how critical is it for a current SSL certificate for optimized SEO?
That's another factor that a few years ago, Google started really prioritizing, that if your site is not behind a secure certificate, if you do not have HTTPS at the beginning of your site, your domain, Google will start deprioritizing it, and probably has been. So that to me is essential. That is every website, every page should always be enforced it. And at Cornershop, what we typically will do is guarantee it. And so basically put in that redirect to block people from getting to the non-secure links. So anytime someone does, if you forget to put in that S in the URL, it will redirect you to the secure version. So it is incredibly important, and definitely something anybody should do, not only for SEO, but also, again, for good practices. If people are donating, like, again, these are for fundraising events and stuff, if people are coming to your site and donating, they expect to see that secure server. Browsers these days are rejecting sites that are giving you a warning if it's not secure. So you don't want people coming to your site and seeing a big warning saying that this isn't secure. Um, and again, it kind of enforcing that security is important too. So for a while, we were seeing a lot of sites where they would have a certificate, they would make sure the URL is secure, but maybe they would load images that were not secure, that just went in with the HTTP address. So making sure every link and everything you do on there is using that secure link, so that Google doesn't accidentally or think that there's something else going on.
That's the baseline, right?
That's the baseline.
That's the
baseline. Yeah. If your site's in WordPress, there's a great plugin. I believe it's just called Enforced SSL, that will do that for you. You install the plugin and it will just redirect all the unsecure links to the secure ones. So it's a pretty easy thing. Most people can do on their own.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about writing and blogs and having those optimized for SEO.
Yeah. So
not-for-profits are passionate people. They just want to tell the story. They don't want to start thinking about, oh, what's my first line? What's my second? It's just, we're spilling it out there. We did this incredible work, but I mean, we need to think about it a little more strategically at the same time too, right?
That's exactly right. It all comes down to, again, Google wants you to create good content that's useful. My best example is, I'm sure everyone here has searched for a recipe of, like, what's the best tomato soup recipe or whatever. And you get all these articles, and when you click on an article, Lori, I'm sure you've seen this, where you click on an article and you first get like a ton of content about, like, what is tomato soup and how do you make tomato soup, and like all these things about it, until eventually you get down to the recipe, 2,000 words later. But that's what actually people and what Google thinks people are really looking for, is that if you want to know about tomato soup, they want you thinking they want you having all the information in one place. They don't want you clicking around 7 different places to find what are the ingredients that go into tomato soup, what are the, how do you choose the best tomatoes? I don't know much about soup, but whatever other sections there. And it's the same thing with your content. So if you're a nonprofit and you're running a fundraising event, thinking of what people are coming at, if nobody's ever heard of your organization, your event, your issues, use that as an opportunity to describe. If you're writing a blog post about your event, think of, like, don't just jump in and say, here's our event and it's over. Give some background information of, this is what the organization is, this is why we do it, this is our story. Tell that story that you've invoked. Give those kind of core features there that are going to give the background and additional information, so that people aren't clicking around to 10 different articles about it. And especially a lot of nonprofits, we work on issues that are complicated, that do need that explanation, and we sometimes come in assuming folks know and understand some of the background, but a lot of times they don't, and it's providing a lot of that content. So that's what Google means when they talk about the authoritativeness, is really providing people with complete information around your information.
Do you have
Do you
a
have a question?
suggested word count?
Yeah, so there's again, guidance has been all over the place on this. I'd say these days, most guidance is between 2,000 and 2,500 words, which is a lot. It
Yeah,
does make for more complicated, but again, a lot of times, you might have that content in other places, and it's just merging it together and presenting
gotcha.
it in that more cohesive format there. Um, using
This
this,
question,
oh yeah,
oh, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. No,
This
go ahead.
question hadn't come in earlier, but it's top of mind, in the last couple of weeks with the whole chat GPT stuff. Should they or should we not be using that to help write or to write stuff?
That's a great question that I've also been following and trying to learn as much as I can about it. I personally haven't, I'm not too familiar with it. I haven't used it myself, and I know that there's lots of stories from both sides of, oh, this
Right.
created perfect content for me, and others where it created, kind of external. I'm not going to get into anything about legality issues and what it means for copyright and things like that. Those you should talk to your lawyer. In terms of what it generates, though, from what I've heard, it sometimes can be a useful starting place. Is you can specify some of those parameters, and it will generate the content for you. And then what I always encourage is really making it your own and really focusing on some of those things. I started with kind of saying like focus on what people are searching for. So if you are doing a raffle in Washington D.C., make sure your titles that you're using in that blog include that phrase, because that's what people are searching for and that's what you're trying to target. So again, if I were writing a blog post about my raffle in Washington D.C., even if it had a name and different things, I would be including like, why is this raffle important for Washington D.C. or something like that as a page, as some of my subheadings in my content. So repeating a lot of that. We have an article on our site right now. I'm happy to share this my screen here and show
That'd be
folks.
awesome.
But we have an article right here that we're sharing. Let me do 1 second here. So this is actually, I just pulled up a cybersecurity for nonprofits article here. And so this is the keywords. This is what we know that people are searching. We know that there's a lot of folks out there searching for this term. And there's actually an exciting new grant opportunity. I'll plug it for anybody who's based in New York State. There's a really great grant opportunity through the state for any nonprofits that are potentially at risk of cyber attacks that they're offering. I think it's up to $50,000 of funding, which is pretty great. So that's definitely something, and that's why we wrote this article. But you can see we included cybersecurity for nonprofits. But we included we didn't just go into that, here's this funding, go get it. We talked about how cybersecurity is important for nonprofits. How do I make my nonprofit website more secure? So kind of going into some of those kind of subheadings and topics that really make it important and what people are going to be searching for around these topics as we do it. This is one of my other favorite tactics, because again, this 2,000 words gets really long, and are people going to scroll through this all? Putting calls to actions throughout so that you're engaging people when they're on your site. Do you need help implementing cybersecurity improvements? Contact us and things like that. So using lessons like this, I think, is a good example of how to really structure the content and make sure that you're providing useful content for your supporters.
I can totally see that. And everybody that has listed their not-for-profit here, Big Brothers and Big Sister, talking
Yeah.
about these stories. And it's like, do you want to come hang out at a Big Brother and Big Sister event? Do you want to, learn more about Montessori? Do you want to come to
Yeah.
our, Catholic activity, etc.?
Yep.
There's a question here from Patrick. Patrick asks, what's the best way to identify the most important keywords for you to improve SEO?
Another great question here. So again, I think a lot of it is you have some of that knowledge of yourself and with your team and your staff of what are people searching for, whether it's for a specific event or your organization, and really start thinking of that. My favorite thing is to ask new employees, like, how did you find out about us? How did you learn about this? And really start, getting some information from either supporters who work for you at the organization, or even some supporters who may have just learned about you and signed up to your list, or attending previous events. Getting that information of how people are learning about you, I think is very important. Google is another great resource. Not only in Google Analytics, you can kind of see what keywords people are searching for. You can use other tools, like within Google Ads, they have a great tool that will let you, keyword generator. So you put in one keyword and it will spit out 100 different variations, and it'll even tell you different, search traffic and things like that. It's meant so that they can sell ads, but it can also be very effective for SEO work as well. And then there are a variety of tools that'll have various keyword generator tools. So Moz is a really good one. That's probably the industry standard for SEO tools. They have a free website analysis tool that will tell you how they think you're doing on SEO and give you a domain authority score and so forth. So that's a great tool that I encourage people to use. They do have free plans, but the paid ones get more expensive, and I know that sometimes is a turnoff for folks. So another tool is SEMrush, so SEMrush, which is search engine marketing is what SEM stands for, and something that will do. And it's a similar tool to Moz, and they've got a great keyword generator that I believe as well. They have a free version that folks can use. And again, just put in one or two of those keywords that you know are important, whether that's your core issue or your event name or something like that, and it will start coming up with other keywords that you can target.
I know you mentioned Moz. I know you mentioned SEMrush, and obviously they're the giants in the room. But one of the things that I love about your place is that you're so hyper focused on not-for-profits that you take that information and then you turn it into something that works well for not-for-profits. When you go to, a big SEO house, you have to first explain to them, what you're doing, what your mission was. You're already starting up here when talking to, you or anybody in your shop, because that's what you hyper focus on, and you've created that niche, correct?
Yeah, 100%. And thanks for saying all that. You're doing a better job selling us than I am. But yeah, 100%.
I'm so excited about it. There's so much potential out there.
But that's exactly right. And that's, I think, why we do it is a lot of nonprofits aren't even thinking about some of these things. And so when you do a website redesign, or as you continually maintain it, create new pages, spend a few minutes thinking about what you're doing and how you're doing it. Another great tool, this won't generate keywords for you, but this is a great tool to see how well you're doing, especially on the content side, is Yoast SEO is a great WordPress plugin that on every single page will give you essentially a score, and that red, green, yellow light of how you're doing with the content. And is it optimized for it? Are you doing all the right things? Are there just very key things that it looks at? And so just starting off there is just even the baseline of what people should be doing is look at your key pages and what does Yoast tell you? It's a free tool that's available for anyone. And that's a great tool that'll just kind of give you some pointers of here's how you can make your SEO content stronger.
You have to be on WordPress to use Yoast?
Yoast, I believe, is just currently a WordPress tool, but I'm certain if you're on other platforms, there are others that are built in, and will help you.
Just curious. Kathy put in a question at the chat here. For some of some very small nonprofits, their websites may be in need of some major updates. Are there other ways to get your events to pop up on Google, or Google via Facebook, or your Auctria event site?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is another good tactic that I do encourage, is that when you're promoting your event is it's kind of that back linking strategy. So promoting on social media by itself, like if you just post on Facebook, like, hey, come to this event, that's probably not going to do much to your SEO. But as more things, as things start taking off and as events start getting more viral, or posts start getting more viral, Facebook events are popular. It does have the possibility to show up more. Facebook pages do show up in Google search results now if you've checked that box to allow them. So it is, doing something is better than nothing. That being said, a lot of those things are not optimized. They're gonna prioritize other things. So unless somebody was just specifically searching for that event, I could see obviously it would come up in that case. But if they were searching for more broad terms, it would be harder to show up if you just had like a Facebook event or something like that. But again, the more places you promote it, the better. So YouTube, which is owned by Google, is something that I think that Google does prioritize a little more in their algorithm. So I do encourage, even if you have a low budget, pull out your phone and create a 5-minute video of this is, or 2-minute video of these are the events we're auctioning off, and this is what's cool about it. And without significant editing experience or anything, that type of video can go a long way because you can post it on various content generators like YouTube or TikTok and things like that. And more exposure, the more that Google sees that these things are going on, they're going to, again, say that, hey, this is more reputable, this is more trustworthy, and I'm going to start linking to this content. So doing a lot of that cross-promoting can be really helpful. The other place that folks forget to promote is local government and news sites. So there are a lot of times where local governments will have a dedicated page of like nonprofits in our community, and being listed on those sites are really important because Google thinks that any government site is going to promote good things and that they're going to kind of lead you to good content. And so that's something that's often very valuable, as well as getting it in various news or events aggregators. There are dozens of event sites. Again, always looking for things to do on the weekends, and there's a variety of subscriptions that I'm a part of, which will have like kid-friendly events versus adult events and nightlife and things like that. And so you get your events listed in as many of those places as possible. It really has the potential to boost your efforts there.
So should they run ads for these?
Yeah. So ads is a completely different strategy from SEO. If you have a budget, it's it's not a bad thing to run ads. I always encourage nonprofits, because we're always trying to maximize where we're spending our dollars. I encourage us to exhaust kind of the more free solutions. Like, let's get the people who we know are looking for us first. And once we have them, then we can expand to people who may be interested but aren't necessarily actively searching for us now. And that's where ads really comes into place. What's great about ads is that for nonprofits, Google has a program where you can get $10,000 per month in free advertising on Google. And so there are some limits and regulations there. You can't go after some of the big terms that cost a lot of money and such, but it can provide a significant boost to your efforts by just getting more traffic to your site. And again, it all is connected in that more people coming to your site shows Google that you're more authoritative and that you're trustworthy. So you definitely, if you have the capacity for it, that is a great strategy that folks will do. And especially around events, because that is short term, it's something actionable that people can do. I have found and seen that ads can be really effective at getting the word out about an event that otherwise people may not have been part of. And so I think that's always a great strategy, especially once you've exhausted the others, or maybe you work on issues that people aren't searching for and you have really low volume and you just want to raise awareness and get more people involved in your issues. So ads can be a great strategy. In addition to Google, Bing and the Microsoft Corporation does offer a $3,000 free grant on their side. So you literally could be doing a ton of work and getting a lot of free advertising on both those platforms for your events. And that is something we can help you manage, because there are some, they do some tricks, and you can't just like set up an ad and forget about it for months. Google will take it down and stop sending people there, or showing people for it. But with a little bit of management and finessing of it, it's not a lot of work to really make sure that you're boosting who's seeing your event.
It's such an interesting time to talk about that because, we were all doing online auctions for a really long time over COVID. And now we're going back to in-person events. And with in-person events, if you go exclusively with silent bid sheets in the room, then it's only that audience that is bidding on those items. If you leave it, I hate to use the term hybrid, but if you're doing mobile bidding where you're doing online auctions, and that means people can bid from their couch or they can bid from their dessert table. And the more people you have bidding, the higher those bids will go, the higher the revenue. So being able to implement something like ads and implement them sharply with, an expert, I think would be quite significant. There's no way you're going to be good at everything, right? And if you only have $10,000, sounds like a ton of money, but it's not a gigantic bucket, right? So you want to be able to use that pinpoint accuracy, and using an expert can help you accomplish that. Correct, Ira?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the most important thing with both of these, is really is thinking that hyper local, and you want to be getting out. I honestly, with SEO, you actually want to be targeting a variety of terms. Some of the broad ones that are a little more broad around your issues. Again, climate organization, anything with conservation, I would be targeting, which obviously would have a lot more competition. Whereas,
Right.
Baltimore raffle is probably going to have a lot less competition. And so, which is good on the ad side, because you can really target some of those keywords that that other folks really aren't targeting, and can, and you can kind of get at the audience who's going to be more specific, and really find those individuals who would be interested in your events. Whereas SEO, you're trying to go a bit more broad and trying to bring in as many people with that, and capture what people are searching for already, and make sure that you show up for them.
Right. Like a literacy council. I may not be seeking out the services of a literacy council. However, I do want everybody in my community to be able to read. And if giving a $20 raffle or, $50 raffle ticket is going to help that, I'd probably sign up for that, but I'm probably not on that target list. So
Exactly.
I can see where those ads would be, finding somebody like me that's willing to, pop out a credit card for something along those lines.
Absolutely, yeah, and so that's why I do encourage. It's certainly good to do both strategies, as SEO, ads, email marketing, social media marketing. Make sure you're doing all of those things and thinking through, how are we going to get more people here, and those are all great strategies to be doing it. And a lot of times you can use a similar strategies and tactics for targeting those folks. Of once you do identify those keywords you're going for, targeting at the people who are already searching for it, and then targeting the people who you want to be searching for it. So.
Awesome. Can you, you mentioned backlinks, and we see it when we go in and we search SEO, and we kind of gloss over it. Can you dig into that a little deeper? What are they, and how do we actually create them? Do I call you up and say, hey, will you backlink to my page? Like, how does that really go down?
Yeah, that's honestly, that is the best way to do it, is really utilizing your personal and professional networks to get other folks to link to your website. That is the goal. A lot of times when we're starting with a nonprofit, we'll develop a list and say, hey, tell us who you currently partner with. Are there organizations that you're friendly with, that maybe you coordinate different campaigns with on a time every now and again? Are there supporters who are like prominent bloggers? I worked at an organization called Free Press that did media policy work, and at Free Press we had a lot of coalition websites that we would do. We also had, since we dealt with folks in the media, there were a lot of people who had their own independent media sites or blogs. And so anytime we really wanted to get a campaign out there, we would email them specifically or call them for relationships and say, hey, we're doing this new campaign. Can you add this widget to your website, or can you add this link directly to this blog post? That's something that's really effective, is if you make it as easy as possible for those people and say, hey, you already wrote about something here that's similar to what I'm trying to promote. Can you just add a link to my site? And that'll boost your domain authority. That'll boost your, how Google sees your site, just by getting that extra link from those folks. Again, assuming that they're authoritative and are following some of those same best practices as well.
Awesome. What about social media? Should we be obviously we're posting on social media, that's where people hang out, but does that help the SEO at all, or does that factor in at all?
Yeah, similar to Kathy's questions, I think it can have some benefit, because again, the more you're talking about it, the more buzz it's generating, and Google will see that, oh, more people are talking about it here, they're talking about it here, and they'll see it all in the aggregate and combine it for the SEO benefit. But really, I think of social media as a great place to engage current supporters, because if they're following you, if they're seeing it, I'm assuming you haven't done a boosted post, but if they're seeing it, it means that they're already interested in your organization, and people are coming to social media like Facebook to interact and communicate with people already. So I always encourage people to use social media as an engagement tool. So whereas on my website and my SEO stuff and my email marketing, I'll be promoting what we're doing, and if we had an auction, I'd be promoting the products that we'd be auctioning off. Whereas on social media, I might be like, saying, hey, what was your favorite item from last year? Where we start creating some conversation and more engagement about it. Since chances are those are the people who've already attended and participated in your activities.
That's such a great idea, because so many groups will have some unique items. I mean, we all have the gift certificates from Starbucks and the ice cream store and the whatever. But when I talk to groups, I bring up Bangor Symphony. I was talking to them recently or whatever, and they were talking about how they had an opportunity where you got to visit the llamas, and then they had another opportunity where you got to go through this ancient graveyard with a historian that takes you through on the tour, so completely unique, so different. And to grab engagement on something like that, it's like, oh, are they going to offer that again? Is that something that you want to tune in for? I can totally I am thinking of all these strategies for everybody that I've talked to and how to implement them.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. Those are some good ideas. Yeah.
So they always say SEO is a long game. How long is that long game?
Yeah, it definitely is. I would say at a minimum, you're not going to see results. You're not going to see results right away. If you make some changes on your website, to the performance, you're not going to see changes for a minimum 6 weeks, but more likely closer to about 3 months. So that's really the time frame that I think folks should be thinking about, is at least a 3-month investment in this, that you want to be planning ahead. You don't want to be launching your web activities 2-3 weeks before your event, because Google's not going to have time to pick that up. You're not going to really generate any buzz or attraction in that way. Same thing even with ads of, it's a good last minute strategy of you can boost people and get more folks there with ads, but it's not going to have that comprehensive benefit that you're going to see with SEO. So I encourage folks to start early. It usually will take a good 3 months to start seeing some impact, especially on the technical side as you make changes there. But even on the content side, it takes some time for Google to recrawl your website and and even see that new content has been added. And so you want to make sure that you're you're kind of planning ahead and working as far in advance. But really, it's an ongoing strategy that you should be working on throughout the year and constantly evolving. Another tool that Google does give you is they do have a Google Search Console, is what they call it, which is kind of an administrative interface for people who manage websites, where you can communicate with Google about your content essentially. And so there's a button in there that'll let you recrawl and say, hey, Google, we added a bunch of new stuff, or maybe we changed our whole website. Those kind of strategies that are pretty easy to just log in, click a button, and Google will be notified a little more quickly about that.
Awesome. Two questions came in. Francesca, don't worry, you'll get a replay. Start with that one. That one's easy.
Yeah.
Angela, absolutely. Your question is very relevant. She's asking about YouTube advertising. She says she oversees events for multiple nonprofits in her area. I create video ads I would like to promote them via YouTube skippable ads, but most of my clients do not have a YouTube channel to post the ad to. Is it better for her to host them on her channel that's under her business name, which I think is her event planner? Or should they start a channel for their own nonprofit to host their videos?
That's a very good question. And I love the fact, I mean, the internet is definitely moving and has moved to more video content, is that people are not reading, people want the short and so forth. TikTok is perfect evidence of that. So I think that's a great strategy to really promote your events. As to where, I think it's always a good idea to be creating an account for that organization, because it leads towards that, again, the authoritativeness that Google's looking for, that when they see that the organization, if it's just a random website, all Google sees is a random website. But when they start connecting the dots with, here's your YouTube profile, here's your Facebook profile, here's the work you've done in AdWords and other platforms, they're going to start seeing you as more of an authoritative voice in the community. So definitely something I would encourage you to be creating new channels for that nonprofit.
That's another service that you can provide, Angelique.
Exactly.
I hope she's chuckling too. Hey, so they have their main website, and then of course with Auctria, they'll have their microsite for their auction or event fundraiser. Does it hurt their SEO that they have duplicate content on both?
That's a great question. You don't want an exact duplicate. So if you have a page that describes your event, describes all your items and everything, and then you just copy and paste that and put it all somewhere else, Google is not going to like that. They're going to be like, hey, why am I seeing two things that are identical? And they actually think of that as, oh, something suspect's going on here. So I wouldn't encourage you to do exactly that. However, you can reuse some content, some languages, certainly having the consistency with your brand of using similar images or using similar phrasings and titles and stuff like that. I think that can be very beneficial, but it's typically you're not going to want to just duplicate duplicate content. We see this a lot with organizations that have multiple brands, where they're like, let me just post the same blog on my main site and then this child site and this other child site. And Google basically is onto them, and you need to make sure that it's unique, because they don't want to promote. They don't want 3 identical articles, one after another, in their search results. So there are some tactics you can do, creating redirects if you want to merge together some articles, and what's the canonical links of basically telling Google, hey, this is duplicate from something else, just
It was
slightly,
meant to be.
yeah, slightly tweaked for it. Yeah, and so Google is kind of aware of that if you intentionally create duplicate content.
So it's like, I know that you know that we know.
Yeah, exactly. We see this a lot, though. I've kind of mentioned about blog posts and such, that a lot of times people, I think our tendency is to create short little posts these days, but what Google's looking for is everything in one. So the last thing I guess I'll leave with about this is, if you do have a lot of those little blog posts that might have similar content or similar focus, consider merging them. See if you can get them all into one post and combine them. And that's a great tactic to really boost your SEO, is merging similar content that aren't performing well in SEO, to give them one great article that does perform well.
That's a great idea. It's not a huge heavy lift if you've done the smaller chunks already and just pulling them together and giving it a really good title, right?
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Awesome. Well, we're up against the top of the hour and it feels like it was maybe
So
45 seconds.
I know.
I mean, I could go on and ask you, and I think the group could too, but I did put up your information. I think you grabbed that slide from me because I don't know if you guys are on Pinterest. We are.
Yeah, I mean, I just Grand. I don't know if we actually are either. I know we're on Instagram, so but everywhere we are, we're at Cornershop. So that's
Awesome. And then they can always email you hello@cornershopcreative.com as well, correct?
Yep, correct.
So any parting thoughts? What's the last thing that you want us to remember?
That's a good question. I would say it's really what Google tells you is focus on creating good content and really putting yourselves in the shoes of your supporters. Think of yourself as somebody who wants to donate, who wants to participate in your events, and what are they looking for? What do they want from you? And that just brainstorming that for 15 minutes can really set your content marketing strategy ablaze by really, getting good content there. So that's really where I'd start with.
Thank you. And it looks like there's some thank yous coming in here too from Diana and Angelique, and a couple people are still typing. I'll see if there's any last comments that come in. And if not, I'll go ahead and close everything out. Yes, you will get these couple slides that I have here, and you'll get the replay so you can watch it back and take more copious notes if necessary, or share it with the rest of your team. It looks like there's a lot of thank yous. Yay!
I appreciate
Round
it.
of applause. We appreciate you. And by the way, you have an article up on the Auctria page. We have a blog post, and there's lots of other. I know you guys have a lot of blog post information on your website. Also, I've hung out on there for quite a bit of time myself.
Yeah, a lot of great useful information for nonprofits around SEO, but fundraising, digital strategy, anything that you need. We've got some great useful content, excellent resources that you can all utilize. So check it out.
Thank you. Well, I always wish people bids that soar. I hope they crush their fundraising goals. Ira, I'll let you have the last word.
I think that's it. Thank you. This is always a pleasure, and really enjoy talking to everybody. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.